You all know that the national bird of America is an eagle, a symbol of freedom and courage. But do you know what the national mammal of America is? This animal weighs nearly a ton and is the largest land animal in North America. It is the American bison. However, the main reason why it was chosen as the national mammal isn't because of its size but due to its tragic history intertwined with American development. Hard to imagine that this creature once faced near extinction on American soil before gaining respect and status. This photo captures their fate back then. Reasons for their slaughter vary: military movements, railway construction destroying habitats, unregulated hunting by Native Americans, even government strategies to eliminate indigenous people. But what was the real reason? Let's talk about it now. The American bison, though native now, actually originated from Eurasia. Specifically, their ancestors, the steppe bison, widely spread across Eurasia and crossed over to North America via the Bering Land Bridge during the last ice age. Over time, these bison evolved into what we see today as the American bison. However, when they first arrived in North America, there were no humans around. It wasn't until tens of thousands of years later that humans came and found them, dangerous yet sacred creatures. Despite their clumsy appearance, once threatened or provoked, they would attack fiercely, running at speeds over 50 kilometers per h, much faster than humans. When these bison ran collectively, the sight was breathtaking and thunderous, earning them the nickname Thunder Beasts. For Native Americans, these beasts were not only dangerous, but also sacred. After large animals like mammoths went extinct, bison became their primary food source and material for tools, clothing, and shelter. Hunting such powerful creatures wasn't easy, so Native Americans developed special hunting techniques in buffalo jump. They would herd the bison off cliffs using fast runners, shouts, fire torches, and small stone piles to guide them. The bison's tendency to follow their leader and the group effect made it hard for them to stop or change direction, leading to mass falls. This method was used extensively until Native Americans mastered horseback riding, but remains a significant part of their mythology and traditions today. However, this peaceful coexistence didn't last long, with European settlers arriving in North America. In the 17th and 18th centuries, Europeans began fur trading, exchanging guns, pots, blankets, and alcohol for beaver and bison pelts. Bison hides were initially less sought after due to their weight and cost of transport, compared to beaver pelts, which were popular in European hat-making industries. However, as the American frontier expanded westward in the 19th century, demand for buffalo leather surged among settlers, miners, and military personnel who needed it for wagons, saddles, tents, and other uses. This increased hunting pressure on bison herds. The construction of the Transcontinental Railroad further exacerbated the situation by disrupting migration routes and providing unprecedented transportation convenience for hunters and traders. The once vast herds faced a catastrophic decline. The cost of long-distance transportation was too high, but after hunters started hunting bison, they could immediately transport the hides, jerky, and bones by train to sell them everywhere, even for export. This thrilled American hunters, who began riding trains along their routes, creating a killing corridor. Here is a question for you all. Besides these hunters, there were also railway hunters hired by railroad companies. One of them was nicknamed Buffalo Bill and killed about 4,280 bison in just 18 months. But they had different jobs from the hunters selling parts of the bison. What exactly did the railway hunters do? Why kill so many bison? The most liked comment from last episode is here. Feel free to participate. I'll pin the one with the most likes. Besides these hunters, there were also entertainment hunting tours where women would sit in trains and shoot bison for fun. The dead bison weren't processed but left to rot on site, a controversial form of entertainment at that time. As America expanded its territory, settlers moved westward and railroads were laid out. The number of bison killed skyrocketed. But you wouldn't believe it. These factors didn't cause the extinction of American bison. The main reason was actually in Europe during the 1870s, when the Second Industrial Revolution accelerated machinery needs. In Europe, machines required better leather than what could be made from domestic cattle hides. North America's railroads had reduced transportation costs for buffalo hides, which were then imported to Europe to make thick and tough belts for heavy machinery. In 1870, European tanning technology advanced, allowing the production of waterproof clothing, luggage, bags, and leather flooring. This spread quickly in Britain, Germany, and France. The demand for bison leather peaked as industrialization accelerated. American hunters and traders began hunting bison without restraint to supply Europe's growing market. They developed techniques like hiding downwind from herds and using long-range rifles to maximize the number of kills per hunt. The hides were exported while meat and bones were processed into jerky, bone meal, etc. This famous photo was taken around 1870 to 1880 during the peak of bison hunting. Bison skulls piled up in factories waiting for processing. In 1870, about 2 million bison vanished from the southern plains. Between 1872 and 1874, an average of 5,000 were killed daily, totaling 5 million over 3 years. By 1902, only around 25 wild bison remained in Yellowstone Park. The main reason for this drastic decline was European demand. But there's another less talked about factor. The US government's westward expansion policy led to conflicts with Native Americans, especially Plains tribes. General Sherman suggested exterminating all nearby bison to weaken Native American resistance, since they relied on them for survival and culture. The government tacitly approved or even encouraged civilian hunters along railroad lines to kill bison as a strategy against the natives. This worked because bison were central to Plains Indians' lives and culture. They were extremely dependent on them. By the mid-1880s, due to strategic implementation and various factors mentioned earlier, bison in the wild were actually on the brink of extinction. The lifestyle of the Plains Indians was completely destroyed, with most tribes forced to surrender and move into reservations. That is why some people think that the story behind this photo and the reason for the bison's extinction is about fighting against Native Americans. However, it was until early in the 20th century, when government and private protection efforts were initiated in America, that their numbers began to slowly recover. Of course, after hearing these stories, you'll understand that buffalo hunting, railway development, military movements, or even fighting against Native Americans all contributed to the decline of bison populations. But what truly pushed American bison to the brink was not just the rifle and railroad, but also the wave of industrialization and humanity. As insatiable greed, they devoured the life of the prairie and crushed the souls of ancient peoples one by one.